All right, start to feel your exhale. So I've been listening to this album that I forgot about, and it's Ry Cooder goes around to a whole bunch. Ry Cooder is a really good guitar player, blues guitar player. And he decides to go and play a whole bunch and write songs with a whole bunch of a number of African music musicians, music producers. And so what he does apparently is he listens to the tunes that they have and then he adds a layer of blues guitar. So you got this wonderful, weird mixing of things happening. So there are a couple songs on this album that I really, really like, but one is called Gomni. And there's an African singer, and I have no idea what he's saying. And in a way, I'm not sure if I want to know because I would hate to be about something I didn't really think was as cool as the tune. It's almost more like chanting. And it's funny, have you noticed that as you get older, it's harder and harder to go with things that you don't understand or just kind of go with the flow with? Like, we kind of like, well, I kind of need to know that. And you find a way. But how often do you actually have to understand stuff? And does understanding something sometimes take away the beauty of it? Like I've watched some videos sometimes about, sometimes it's amazing to watch, but if somebody picks apart a song too far, right, it has a diminishing return for me. It's like, oh my God, like someone did that to a wonderful rendition or how great Sir Duke was by Stevie Wonder. Like, and it was great. It was an honor to Stevie Wonder about that was a breakthrough song, right? That like from a composing point of view, as a guy with a perfect ear, said this is the most miraculous set of chords, blah, and he explained, all this stuff, and it was great. And on one level, did I really need to know that we're really lucky to have been alive with Stevie Wonder? Right? Like he's so great. Do you remember if anyone's seen that video of Stevie Wonder on the Ed Sullivan Show where he's 13 and he sings Fingertips? Have anyone seen that black and white? He comes out of nowhere. Nobody knows who he is. And he comes in as a blind 13-year-old boy, appears on the Ed Sullivan Show, and sings Fingertips. And if you don't know that song, right? Like, oh my God, it's a great song. And then if you watch the video of this blind kid going in front of people he has no idea and singing Fingertips, think about it. He writes a song called Fingertips at 13 because he touches everything to see. It's stunningly beautiful, right? So again, notice your exhale, notice your feet. I do a lot of time trying to show you and show a lot of people for a lot of time what the subtle body is, right? What it feels like as a sensation. I'll say all these things about it like, the subtle body disguises itself as relief, right? And I'll tell you things like, I wrote, and I try to get people in this method, especially for those of us that like, for me, I'm paralyzed and don't have access to the outer body of my muscles and stuff and two-thirds of my body. I try to get, I've learned a lot from bones, right? And in fact, I just wrote some even newer stuff about bones and the fact that there's a mystery there. And it's so funny with bones, we don't really know how important they are until we break one, right? And when you break a bone, you realize that they were plugging you into something. And part of what I'm trying to get across in the book is that plugs you into something way more than you know. And you don't really know the value of a bone all the way till you break it, but that's like finding out that there's water in a glass only after you spill the glass, right? So, like, for example, going back to bones again and wonder and whether you need to understand, right? The thing is, you get this to feel. So one of the things that happens, and I know it seems like I'm going all over the place, and I was up at 4 o'clock this morning, so my mind is a little bit free right now, right? So is that bones, you don't have direct access to it, but learning how to listen to your bones. So like if you have MS on the call, for example, the myelin on the neurotransmitters, the electrical waves not getting all the way through, but your bones don't have MS. I used to say to this people with CP, your bones don't have CP. Your most direct relationship to prana, and I try to make a point in this book that your bones are more faithful to prana. But when you try to describe this to someone that doesn't do yoga and they want to understand it, and I hope you're getting better, especially for those of you that are starting yoga when you're older. And I watch Catherine from Santa Fe struggle with this a lot. Like, you don't have to understand. You seriously don't. You take in a lot more of the universe if you don't put it through the filter of mental awareness. And you miss the like trying to get people to understand why lifting your chest is an act of transformation. It sounds like hyperbole, right? And it's like, but it is actually. Why? So I've said all these clever lines about, like lifting your chest. You do it because it distributes awareness through your limbs, or say things like I said about the subtle body, trying to get them to recognize that when you more connect to your bones, you actually feel more of your subtle body, that your bone awareness is a door opener. And you got all these things. Like I also say, like empty space is the conduit of the subtle body. Said all these things. Notice that it's going to be a lot harder for you to feel the subtlety in your nervous system if you're clenching your jaw. So if you want to shut down the subtle body kind of violently, clench your jaw and try to feel anything subtle once you're doing that. It's very hard. So when you soften the inside of your mouth and keep your lips together, teeth slightly apart, and I'll say things you like, well, that's opening you, centering opens you to a different form of energy. And I've also hinted to you that it's something like Shavasana. And the subtle body, it doesn't go like a river. That's your mind keeping up with it. The subtle body was already permeating your whole body. You just all of a sudden become more aware of it. And like, so I'm watching Angelique and she's feeling her subtle body and she's practicing breathing and she's rocking just a little bit because she's using the tools she knows how to feel. She's going to be led more by breath, right? I get led more by alignment. So when you start rocking around a little bit, think about what you're doing. You're actually changing the gravity on your sitting bones. You're more smoothly rocking into the in and out of the empty space around you. All these things. Now, if you rock around and you drop your chest, notice how much more dead that feels. So I'm telling you, if you want to feel your subtle body, a lifted sternum, as long as you're not straining too hard, is going to make you be able to feel the whole room better, especially what's behind you when you rock and you're changing gravity on your bones, and your brain and your mind are getting more reference, right? You're getting shifts and variation because your mind only picks up variation, right? So I'm going to go back over the back of the chair, right? So we have this new thing I have to introduce. Apparently, I've been getting from the boss. They you do thumbnails when this class gets posted. They do thumbnails of I just remembered it right now. I got to start doing this. Pictures, and they take a frozen picture. So we're going to start this moment where I do a glam shot where I freeze, look at the camera, and I smile and I give more content. So let's all do a glam shot here for a second, whatever you decide to do. This is going to become a ritual in every class. And unfortunately, I'm probably going to get goofy with it and screw up Molly, our graphic designer, right? So here I'll try to be serious. Well, let me think. If I do this, see, if I get too weird, it's not going to work. I have to do something that's believable. If you write in suggestions for glam shots, let me know. How about no, I'll just look at the camera and go, now see, that'd be barfy. Like we have to think about what are the things I can do, right? Maybe I'll do one just like this, getting bigger in space. And I'll smile and I'll pause here for a second and I'll fake smile. There we go. There was the glam shot for today. 10:16. Write that down. Whatever you started the video, like so 16 minutes into it. All right. But this idea of moving and variation, and because like I always say, think about it. So can I warn you about my brain right now? So you know that one of the big breakthroughs that Einstein did as a thought experiment, okay, was he realized that if you were falling from an airplane, if there was no wind, if you're falling in outer space, that you would reach a point when you hit the maximum velocity where you wouldn't feel anything anymore. It's not theory of equivalence, but it's the equivalence, like where you would end up. It's one of the foundations of his relativity is the realization that at some point things would feel exactly, you wouldn't feel anything coming or moving, right? The mind struggles to make judgment when it's just the expanse, right? So the reason why the mind's waking up and feeling more stuff when we're moving around is that it's getting input and weight changes. Because remember, when you feel in the subtle body, you're feeling more spaciousness and something more subtle and something you have less control over, right? So you're trying to figure out how to include what's uncontrollable into your yoga pose. So I'm going to put my hands a little bit farther apart. Remember, I don't understand how any of this works. At some point, you don't have to. Okay. So now, because I've done this so much, as soon as I do this and I equal on my elbows, I got my bones becoming part of the structure. I'm dropping my shoulder blades a little bit. As I feel the skin on my palms, for some reason, I can feel the bottoms of my feet slightly better. Like, what the hell? Right? And then for this space that's between my hands, I'm going to slightly lift my sternum, broaden across my shoulder blades. When you do that, do you feel your neck lengthen? Do you feel how suddenly you can kind of feel like you're slightly more connected to the empty space in the room? This might be a good time to breathe. And then something important happens in the midline. So I'm going to bring my hands together, but I'm going to feel the empty space close. And as soon as the skin hits, I'm going to engage my spine and lift my sternum again. So now I'm being more dynamic through my own midline. You don't do it, but wouldn't you just screw it up if you clenched your jaw right now? You're trying to become part of the ether while you're efforting. When effortful effort becomes effortless, you've encountered fourth method of breathing. When you're falling, at some point, you don't know what's up and what's down. You hit an equilibrium. But thank goodness you still get to breathe. Feel the breath into each nostril. into each lung. Make it include your dropping shoulder blades, spreading shoulder blades, your sitting bones, the bottoms of your feet. Prana follows consciousness, and then it gets flamed by breath. You can push prana with your breath too, but we're trying to make sure we bring the ether. What happens if you enter the quiet? What micro adjustments does your yogi make? Like I can tell I need to adjust my neck. There are all these places because I'm getting quiet where I can tell I need to make micro adjustments in my unity with the empty space. Good. And then release. Bring your hands down to your thighs, palms up. Sternum up, chin down, like it matters, like it's the most important thing you ever did. Like there's a whole world of possibility in that movement. Find where it comes in sync with the hum. And then buttress it. Support the hum by having it flow through your body. Can't you see why you might want to say an om? Create a vibration that's in unison. Good. And then release. Chin up. So, what's the place you're entering? So, we got words for it. We could say, like, well, when you center, take your legs wide. When you center, you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system and you're doing this and you're doing that. I don't know. Does that make it any more real? Oh. So, I'm trying to again open my groin a little bit, so I'm rocking back and forth because I want the energy from the base of my spine, from my life chakra, to be more free to go into my legs because almost everybody clenches their groin. So we're just trying to open it up a little bit, trying to change gravity, trying to activate more awareness of the bone, more awareness of the skin, right? And so Gabrielle kind of likes to wiggle her spine, right? It's like, because that's one of the things she knows. Sometimes you should not do just the things you know. You should find other ways to activate. This is for a student that's been a student longer. Don't get too caught up into the things you know all the time. Most of the time, right? So I'm pushing. Remember, I've been teaching classes lately about the space between the femur bone, the top of the femurs, through the hip flexors to the base of the spine to the lower abdomen. And I've been trying to tell you that this space is magical. It's in forward bends, it's in standing poses. We talked about this in Warrior Two, talked about this in a variety of poses. What if the reason why it's in all those poses is because it activates the spaciousness that's an essential component of the subtle body? And the spaciousness in your body, the space that gets covered up all the time when you're sitting a lot, the spaciousness in your hip flexors needs to be feeding your chest, front and back. And once it feeds there too, then it can feed your heels. You can feel the moon in your heels. What language is he talking about right now? Right? What is he describing when he says moon energy in the heel bones? That's monkey business. Bring your legs back together, right? So we've been doing things like Tadasana and changing alignment in the legs, right? So like so like I've been having you do things like um back here. Wait, hold on just one sec. I have a door open I never have open. You gotta keep some of the backdrop of your poses uniform, right? So again, so the thing about Tadasana was that in the last few weeks I've been doing trying to have your legs flail out, trying to have you bring it in, right? Which makes you feel the midline. I've been talking about taking your belly button back and catching it with your chest, right? Right. So what's the thing you're catching, Claire? What do you catch when you put your knees together? Does the instruction bring your knees slightly together, making it feel energy go back towards your abdomen and lift your sternum? Does that instruction make sense to you?
Yes, feels
So
like an energy current.
so there we go. Let's call that space being created following the bone, but activating the subtle body, right?
Right, right.
So when you can get it in a straight line, and then when you get that energy moving, kind of makes you want to expand your chest, right?
Hmm.
Makes you want to open. And you can tell that clenching your jaw right then would be counterintuitive to the openness that happens when you started with structure and caught it, right? That's what I'm talking about as the subtle body, right? And I'm not sure how to make anyone understand that unless they feel it. Right. So glad I like Claire. I'm going to start calling on people. So Claire, thanks for letting me just surprise you. Right. All right. So now, how do you get this sensation to be also grounded more in bone? And then we did a lot of this a lot of this stuff last time, right? Which would be trying to feel this. We did this as a prep for standing poses. Bring my knees together, but then at a certain point, I want you to push your femur bone back into your hip sockets, which makes you lift your chest for sure, which makes you activate the space in the hip flexors and deepen the pelvis, which makes you want to lift your chest. And then you feel that and you contrast that. Remember, the mind needs things to be broken up. And if you push out on your knees, and then remember the mind is needing more to catch up, then I'm going to push back on my knees. And then I'm going to push out on my knees, on my femur bones, and do this back and forth for a while. And trying to make it into, oh, and suddenly I want to turn that into a back bend and this one more into Tadasana. But when I push back on my knees, it's easy for me not to pay attention to my heels enough. It's easy for my mind to get caught up in the drama of the rise. So as a yogi, it's not like you disregard the rise. So see, now we're talking weird shit, right? Again, I don't even know how to describe this. Okay, so when I was trying to say that when you push back on your knees and you follow the rise more, and you shouldn't deny the truth, there is more of a rise. Angelique, I'm about to ask you a question. I'm warning you. So to keep track of your feet, is she still on the call? Yeah, there you are. Thanks. To keep track of your feet, what part of your vision can stay on the heels as you're rising up, and the drama is the rise?
Part of my vision.
Is it vision? I'm not even sure. What part of your awareness? How do you keep, as you're having the drama of the rise happen, which is what you're supposed to feel, how do you keep track of your heels, not just the balls of your feet? So I want you to have more stuff on your heels, just so you know, but that's a whole different thing. Right? Angelique, have you come up with how you
Yeah,
keep?
I mean, it's funny that she said that because I was thinking like I'm catching it, I'm feeling it, sort of internally, and with like the from the rise, like from the rise, kind of up through the crown of my head, I'm feeling it as I'm, feeling it in the heels of my feet.
And you need something to lock, right? That's why so your answer is really smart, right? You need that kind of drop of the chin
Yeah.
to
To
to put the ceiling on the rise
yeah,
without lessening the rise. So
yeah,
now we're at a place where we're just talking words now, and there's an experience that we're all having that we're trying to put to words. So you're right on something, right? And once you get that ceiling on it, and you're feeling the drama of the lifted chest, to me, it seems like I have to keep the ceiling is the first step. The way I stay connected to the back of my heels is from the backs of my eyes, from more the center of my head. Does anyone have the same experience? This isn't the only way to do it, right? Like once I get all this that Sue's talking about, as I'm moving in the rest of the pose, the way to keep track of my heels is to remember the roof, right? But then part of me has to stay invested in where my heels are. Can you see how it'd be harder to stay invested to where the balls of your feet are? Anyone? Yes, no? Because
yeah,
this could be my experience, right?
yeah.
Turns out that moon energy is going to be easier to feel the subtle body in. Here's another hard, weird truth. Right, it might be a truth. I think it's my experience. Initially, this is going to be really hard on Angelique. Initially, I feel more of my subtle body in the first couple of instances when my breath is in retention. Think about that for a second, all of you. In the first couple instances of retention, isn't there a hum that invades your whole body? Once you add the drama of the breath, the inhalation, and I can feel it more on exhalation. Exhalation, I can get back to where my heels are more on exhalation,
But
right?
I tend to I tend to use a lot of retention in my exhalation, more so
Right,
than my inhalation, so I can see
right.
what you're talking about.
Exactly. Turns out that a beginner holds their breath in yoga poses because they're trying to feel the empty part of their mind body experience. They're just trying to control it, right? So is this making
was
sense for anybody? Yeah.
I was having sensations at the back of my throat, at the base of my tongue.
Yep.
That was where I was catching my heels.
That's where I would say the center of the head or the backs of my eyes. Because there's a place of intersection in the center of your head, Bill, which is if you draw a line from the center of your ear to the base of your tongue to the back of your eyes and you let them all have a vector line, that's the place where you hear your heels from, right? More, right? And that's also a great way to very quickly get into Shavasana, is to let the organs of perception all soften from that intersecting point. And then to follow up on words that are put down by other people, that's why the art of silence, BKS Angar will say, because when you do all, try to find, soft, feel the base of your tongue, let your ears, back of your eyes, let them all come into that place. BKS Angar is saying that's more connected to your inner ear than you know. And he calls that weirdly the art of silence. And it's through the art of silence that you're feeling the subtle body. That's why it's way harder to feel the subtle body in very vigorous poses, right? Because there's too much drama going on. All right. Awareness of the subtle body is something you have to practice maintaining. It's not all just duckies and bunnies, right? There's a part of it that you end up having to almost be stern with it. But like, for example, back to what Sue was talking about in this bandha, lifting the sternum and dropping the chin. Now, when you teach it, in an Angar yoga class, when they're teaching that, and they make it so physical, it's super fatiguing because they're trying to resculpt your body, right? Right. So, but if you overdo the lift of your sternum or you over try to do the chin, you screw it up. If you overdo the retentive part of the listening and of the subtle body, you use too much of your will, right? That's why a lot of you like the finding you feel by feeling kind of wavy gravy, because that gets the lighter part of it, right? As opposed to the sterner part of it, right?
The microphone? Yes. Well, Peter's calling you back now.
We might have to put you on mute. Bethany, can you help him do that? Yeah, there you go. All right, so let's do this unfolding. Sit up straight and tall. Remember, we're trying to get all this together now. We're trying to get to how we stay. So this all came off of a riff off of feeling Tadasana, bringing your knees together, pushing back of your knees, right? Pushing back towards your femur bone on your knees, catching with your chest, dropping the chin. How do you keep track of your heels? You all gave really good answers to that, right? Really good answers to that. How do you maintain that? So we're going to go from this pose. Remember, when we're contrasting it to pushing out on the knees, so as soon as I shift gravity and go back on my bones, I lose my heels, right? Now, how am I going to, once you change gravity and go on the backside of your sitting bones, connection to your heels isn't as enhanced by gravity. Do you push to stay in your heels? Or do you watch it from the place we were just discovering, right? All right, so back again, in, up, we're gonna do the shift of gravity, we're gonna go back. I gotta now stay connected to where my heels are by going to that inward place, push out on my knees, go up and over the back of my chair. And right now, it's almost all over but the crying. So I use my hands on my bones of my knees to keep me connected to my heels as I'm going the opposite way and spreading my chest in a back bend, but keeping awareness of my heels through those other avenues and breathing. So one of the things, so the really fun, over fun back bends, that if you do them this way, you end up getting really shaky, is you just kind of throw yourself back and have a party. And there's nothing wrong with doing that sometimes, right? You kind of don't think about all this core stuff. You just kind of go back and over and open, right? But if you want to, what happens when you keep the quote heels, that part of the subtle body, because most of you are thinking the subtle body's light more, and that's what you're drawn to, and that's cool. It is that. But keeping the deeper, more moon part of that is actually will make you do less violence in your pose. right? Because you won't be flying all over the place. So again, we're going to start this back bend by activating bones, bringing the knees together, lifting the sternum, dropping the chin, putting a roof on it. So when I find my heels, I have to go through my sitting bones once I have a roof on it, right? I'm going to turn, so I'm going to feel that awareness, keep it with me, change gravity, go on the back side of my sitting bones, start pushing my femur bones away and getting the lightness of my hip flexors and hips, lift the chest. But right here, I've got to like keep the roof on right here before I go back over. Because once I start opening here, I'm going to lose my heels some unless I practice it. So, $50 question to Angelique again. Come on back out of it. Does horizontal movement, okay, I'm going to try to set it up to you so it's a softball. If I'm going back and over the chair, one of the ways does horizontal movement across your collarbones help you find your heels or hide your heels?
Horizontal movement across my collarbone.
In the back bend.
Help me find my heels or, oh, in my back bend.
Find your tailbone to your heels.
Um,
I think you're about to give me the wrong answer.
I know because you know what I'm trying to think about it while I'm in my back bend, and I feel like I'm getting disconnected.
Correct, because some of you're doing the back bend without earning the underneath side,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Because
Because it,
sorry, go ahead.
oh no, go ahead.
I was trying to get connected to my heels while I was doing my back bend.
Correct. Yep. And so that's why when you're in a back bend, you're not trying to horizontally broaden across your collarbones the whole time you're going back. You
Right.
get up here, you get into it, and trying to go, oh, I can't forget my heels. You actually horizontally extend to
Yeah.
find moon energy in poses, right? To
Hmm.
find the bone energy comes from horizontal extension, right? So now we did some shop talk as teachers there, but like I want you to get that no matter what you do, so we're going to start with the more of the moon stuff. So what especially here's what I learned this the hard way. If I backbending in a chair, I really would irritate my back a lot because I'd fall in love with going back over and trying to like go back, go quickly and not earn it all the way. And so my low back would get sore. And I realized that I was sacrificing base in order to satiate what my mind thought was the pose, right? So all this this prep, right, we're doing is to get is because when I'm back over like this and I'm like free to be you and me and up here, it's really hard to find your base. And it's because you don't have base. And this happens to traditional students too. They irritate their back because they don't have enough base, right? So we're doing all this extra stuff, knees together, ground, hip back into my femur bone, lift my sternum. I've already started my back bend, drop my shoulder blades, switch gravity, the difference between here and here, change my hand position, start to push away, but making sure I keep connected to the bone as I push down. So I'm not just pushing my skin, I'm keeping connected to my bones, going back, and my mind's going to want to follow the up and over the back of the chair. I broaden across underneath my collarbones, ground my sitting bones, stay connected through the inner corridor as I open. Good, and then release. So does anyone have any advice when you're really working a pose like that, right? Did you work that kind of hard? I'm
I
guessing that,
found
yeah.
I found that it was a very, 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 very hard pose.
Hmm.
And when you started on the collarbone, the lateral movement or the horizontal movement, I also brought it down to my hips and did the horizontal through my hips. And my goodness, it kind of just,
So what happens, Bill, again, you're right on because you have three diaphragms, right? And one of them, at least in yoga, one of them's underneath the collarbones, one of them's through the middle back, but one of them's through the lower abdomen, right? So when you get this movement to go towards you, because notice that when you if I just if I just squeeze my hands together like I'm pushing my fingers, my bones together, right? I can push that really hard, my upper back locks down. If I like feel the heel of my hands more and I don't just push in a straight line force, if I get the bones to connect and then broaden my palms, the skin on my palms, do you feel how that changes? Broadening the skin here, right? Going horizontal also drops the shoulder blades, right? Does anyone feel that what I'm talking about here? Bethany, tell me it does. It does, right? Horizontal increases the intensity of your base, right? So imagine you if you were to have a pipe of prana and you narrowed the pipe, the river would go faster. Horizontal extension increases the flow of prana through the base. Okay, but it's like you have to be really quiet to see how it intensifies. So Bill, when you broaden across your collarbone, right, you feel an increase in intensity, right? That's what I mean
yes.
about this speeding water through the pipe.
Mhm.
And the paradox is the horizontal extension reveals base and increases the flow of prana. And it's going to be true in every yoga pose where horizontal extension meets vertical extension. And when the thing with horizontal extension is it tends to make you harden the inside of your mouth. You want to grit to get there. Guess what doesn't belong there? Right?
My tongue on the top of my mouth
Right,
right now.
right,
When
right.
I was pulled, as soon as you said it, I felt my tongue pressing the top of my mouth the whole
Right.
time while we were
When
talking about
when
it.
the will gets going, your jaw's gonna tense and then your tongue's gonna hit the roof of the mouth. You have to learn how to activate your will and keep shavasana. Right. And that's why Bika Iyengar is saying keep your tongue in the lower palate in all the poses. Right. If you catch someone clenching their jaw or hard on the inside of their mouth, they're literally cutting off in an attempt to make the pose be louder, they're cutting off the prana. Their muscles are going to fatigue more and they're going to be more prone to injury. So, how does all this apply for God's sakes? Glamour shot, or here, or just take your elbows up, or if you can't take your arms wide and it's too hard, don't have them down more at your sides. You can have more at your sides. Have them down a little bit so it's not so straining for some of you, so it's more down here, right? So I can hit the tricep into the bone, the lengthen the bicep along the bone, right? Make sure it's traveling through my forearm by broadening my palm. But if I overdo the palm, I cut off the prana, right? You have to pay attention. All this is because we're trying to find the river through the midline, right? This might actually be more effective if you don't take your arms too far wide, right? So you're down here, and I'm making sure all this is happening in my upper body. But now, has anyone noticed that they've gripped their diaphragm and done this to it? You scrunched your diaphragm a little bit. That must
Yeah.
be a mistake, correct? Because that'd be fucking up your pose, right? So then you go like, where, what? I have to do all this thing. My mind has to do all this thing, and I still have to receive from the universe. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Right? So here I'm back. So by teaching your arms too much right there, I kind of made it hard. I'm making you like I made you do exactly what the mistake would be. So now my arms are at my sides. Right now, I'm making the upper arm and the palm, and I'm making it through my whole body. Does anyone start to feel their core and their legs more just by working your arms better?
Yep.
Yeah. You know,
Yep.
what the hell's going on here? Be
Yep.
the subtle body coming through effort, right? Things are opening, right? All right. And then now I'm going to add something. I'm going to pick a point in the center of my sternum. And I'm going to go down through both arms and down through each leg through the center of my sternum. And the question is, can I do it without effing things up? Hmm. In order not to F things up, I had to catch my sits bones and my heels. Now I'm going to take my arms wide. But as I lift up, I'm going to feel the underside of my arms. So now, how am I going to get the lower diaphragm, the collarbone diaphragm to go out through my arms and down through my sitting bones and keep my heels in the pose? So that was confusing. Take your arms down. How am I going to go down to my sits bones, down to my heels and not screw up my diaphragm? Well, here'd be the instruction you've heard 20 times from me or 100 times in this pose. Pick a point, get it all going. Now, did you forget Tadasana and pushing it on your knees? Did you forget all the sensations here? I think you probably did, right? So in fact, take your arms down. I'm gonna revisit it because I want this sequence to matter. I'm gonna push on my knees in. I'm gonna catch it, lift my chest, right? Hit down, ground, take my arms up, engage my arms, try to keep the whole thing. Go wide from a point in the center of the chest. Move through the center of your elbow and the center of your wrist, anchoring it on the inner edge of each shoulder blade. Hit down through your sitting bones, down through your heels. Breathe. Good. And then release. Don't you kind of want to bring your knees together right now a little bit so you can sit at the energy gas pump? Because that was just out. And don't you want to get the midline, get the water there already? I like that Kathy Leche Chong is nodding her head, meaning that she totally knows that she longs for Tadasana after this. So you got you now, and look what we're doing there. We're using the bones, the change in the sitting bones to travel through the midline, up the chest, keep the roof on, drop the shoulder blades. Raise your head up, open your eyes. So in the beginning of class, when I have you lift your sternum and drop your chin, I hope you're getting that when you go to lift your sternum, you need to be in your heels. You need to be in your sitting bones. You need your whole, not just lift your sternum, drop your chin is what people throw it away too quick. No, you're catching a wave. You're coming right up the midline, keeping your stuff in your heels and your energy in your heels and your sitting bones. You lift the sternum and you put the roof back on, and that helps you follow your heels and your sitting bones. And then you breathe. So many people do that bandha from too high up. It's way lower than that, right? Good. And then before we end with the twist here in a second, let's revisit the back bend that includes all this, right? Catch, catch. But now I'm already more connected to my sitting bones and the back of my heels from that place of intersection in the center of my skull, right? Now I'm going to watch the gravity shift, push out on my bones, not just on my flesh. Start going back and over, but I'm trying to stay connected from that other place to my sitting bones and heels, open it up, and then using the broadening underneath the collarbones and on the backside to get the diaphragms to sink. So I stay connected to my heels as my mind wants more back bend. I'm making sure I stay with the earth. Good, and then release. Come out of it. So there's a way, and I don't want to teach it too intensely right now, but this also applies to how I've often taught twists to, where a lot of people just like think, oh, and it's not their fault. They don't know how much the earth needs to be in every pose, right? So they just kind of inhale, arm up, arm over. You can do it if you want to. And then they just like think about turning their chin, their chest. And they don't really turn even their chest. They move their head more. They move their chin more than their sternum, right? Because they think that's where the pose is, but that's them being too much in the ether, into the air, right? But it makes their mind think they're doing the twist, right? And then go the other way. And those are appropriate twists sometimes, right? And go the other way and just kind of let it be like kind of not thinking too much or whatever. And then come back to center. Now remember, I've taught the twist where you're augering down, right? So you hit your sitting bones down, you lift your lower abdomen up, and in that little action, can you feel your heels more? The answer is you're in your heels more. You're keeping the moon with you here. You're keeping your bones with you, right? And then you keep that. So I'm putting because I want to keep the earth with me, I'm grabbing the front of my knee, right? I'm keeping the bone energy here. But I'm going down, lifting the ladder up. I'm inhaling, lifting up, exhale, revolving, but I'm really not going as far because I'm keeping the midline way more into the pose. So to even enhance the midline, I'm going to take my left floating rib over here, where I'm pointing to, and I'm going to draw a line to the right hip, extend up through my skull, hit down through my sitting bones, keep that place at the base of intersection with the base of my tongue down to my heels. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Good, and then unwind. That's a much deeper twist. That's not the only twist you ever want to do, right? But that's a midline twist, right? So I'm going to hit down through my sitting bones, lift my lower abdomen up, find my heels, grab my knee, take the arm behind me, right? This twist is way different for me on this side, way different. So I have to be a yogi, my own yoga pose, and adjust, right? Helped me to take an exhale where I did a little more Ujjayi breath there. Hit down, I kept the roof on by lifting my sternum and dropping my chin. Auguring down, rising up, inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Only revolving my spine and my chin as far as my spine is going. So I'm not worried about doing this part of the twist. I'm keeping in line with my sternum. And I'm keeping the back of my eyes down to that where my ears touch. I'm making sure that stays in my sitting bones and my heels. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Good, and then come on back to center. That's a different twist. Let's bounce a little bit. Mm-hmm. Now I'm quickly falling into Shavasana. So one of the things that's really helpful in Shavasana is to really rest your bones so you can rest your empty spaces. I was thinking about this, and I wrote this in my book. I don't think I read this last week. It's where, isn't it curious that your bones stay with the earth the longest? The rest of your flesh disappears, right? But not your bones. It's because they're more faithful to prana. And there's an important relationship between your bones, your empty space, and your breath. In Shavasana, you're using the bones to land, to let the space rise, and you can keep your breath shallow, right? So notice I don't cue bones that often, but I'll cue the space in your ankles, your knees, your hips, your shoulders, your elbows, your wrists. But I'm using bones as anchors so you can feel the empty space. I'm asking you to keep your lips together, teeth slightly apart. And I want you to hear your bones, whatever that means to you today. And then I'm going to surrender into the support of the chair. Letting my bones, letting the space rise out of my bones, letting the chair hold up my space. Clearly, the temples would have to be softened. The jaw would have to be softened. All these instructions are energetically logical. If you're listening, doesn't take logic, you just have to feel. Feel your breath. Let it gently touch the empty spaces created by landing your bones. Space is the conduit of the subtle body. Prana rewards structure. congruence, because then the space between the bones gets nourished. Space between the bones and the muscles gets nourished. As you're gradually increasing your breath. Your breath is magical because it can touch both your physical body and the empty spaces. So as you bring yourself back with slightly increased inhalation, slightly longer exhalations, you're checking with your bones, you're feeling your muscles, you're feeling your skin, and you're letting the breath open the space between the muscles, the bones, and the skin. As you get ready to open your eyes, distract your mind even more. We survive because we faced outward. Facing outward now is threatening our survival. You're bringing yourself back. Just had flashes of the sea creatures that live way down and way deep in the ocean that don't have any eyes. That'd be wild, wouldn't it? I once had two students in a class that were deaf, blind, and they couldn't make any sounds. And were able to teach those people a tapping language on their palms. How that was ever possible. They're pretty much near the core of it, right? Of the happening before all the distraction. Think about it, especially this one woman. She was like probably 19 or 20. Somehow she told me she liked the class. So yoga is supposed to touch that place. All right, everybody, hands together. Namaste. Spirit in me bows the spirit in you. I'm thinking that place between everything there is universal. The core happening, we all have it. We don't all have the same vision. We don't have the same hearing. We don't. We got the home though. All right, everybody. Have a good week.